Good evening, everyone. Welcome to another session of Readings in Isolation. My name is Saman Giraud and I'll be your host tonight. For those of you who didn't watch the last session with Joanna, let's see. I'm going to give you a little recap. So, King Yunnan had a severe skin disease, and no doctor was able to help him. However, there was a sage called Sage Duban who offered his services to the king. But the vizier of the king was very, very suspicious. So the sage said, "I am going to heal the king without even laying my hands on him." And he did. But the vizier grew jealous of the king's favor and went to the king and told him, "That very same man who healed you is going to kill you." Now the king was a wise man, a very wise man, and he could sense the jealousy. So he started to tell stories to the vizier to awaken him. And this is where we are, the fifth night of Shahrazad telling her stories. All right, let me just get a little comfortable here. There you go. Now, when it was the fifth night, her sister said, "Do finish for us thy story, if thou be not sleepy." And Shahrazad resumed. This is my cat, apologies. "It has reached me, O auspicious king and mighty monarch, that King Yunnan said to his minister, 'O vizier, thou art one whom the evil spirit of envy has possessed because of this physician, and thou plottest for my putting him to death, after which I should repent me full sorely, even as repented King Sindibad for killing his falcon.' Said the vizier, 'Pardon me, O king of the age, how was that?' So the king began the story of King Sindibad and his falcon. It is said, but Allah is all-knowing, that there was a king of Fars, who was fond of pleasuring and diversion, especially coursing and hunting. He had reared a falcon which he carried all night on his fist. And whenever he went chasing, he took with him this bird, and he bade make for her a golden couplet hung round her neck, to give her drink therefrom. One day, as the king was sitting quietly in his palace, behold, the high falcon of the household suddenly addressed him, 'O king of the age, this is indeed a day fit for birding.' The king gave orders accordingly and set out, taking the hawk on fist, and they fared merrily forward till they made a wadi. Now a wadi is the Arabic word for a bed of water which flows only after heavy rains, where they planted a circle of nets for the chase, when lo, a gazelle came within the tors, and the king cried, 'Whoso alloweth yon gazelle to spring over his head and looseth her, that man will I surely slay.' They narrowed the nets about the gazelle when she drew near the king's station, and planting herself on her hind quarter, crossed her forehead over her breast as if about to kiss the earth before the king. He bowed his brow low in acknowledgment to the beast, when she bounded high over his head and took the way of the waist. Thereupon the king turned towards his troops, and seeing them winking and pointing at him, he asked, 'O vizier, what are my men saying?' And the minister answered, they say, thou didst proclaim that whoso alloweth the gazelle to spring over his head, that man shall be put to death. Said the king, now by the life of my head, I will follow her up till I bring her back. So he set off, galloping on the gazelle's trail, and gave not over tracking till he reached the foothills of a mountain chain where the quarry made for a cave. Then the king cast off at it the falcon, which presently caught it up and swooping down drove her talons into its eyes, bewildering and blinding it. And the king drew his mace and struck a blow which rolled the game over. He then dismounted, and after cutting the antelope's throat and flaying the body, hung it to the pommel of his saddle. Now the time was that of the siesta, and the world was parched and dry, nor was any water to be found anywhere. And the king thirsted, and his horse also. So he went about searching till he saw a tree dropping water, as it were melted butter from its boughs. Thereupon the king, who wore gauntlets of skin to guard him against poisons, took the cup from the hawk's neck, and filling it with the water, set it before the bird, and lo, the falcon struck it with her pounces and upset the liquid. The king filled it a second time with the dripping drops, thinking his hawk was thirsty. But the bird again struck at the cup with her talons and overturned it. Then the king waxed wroth with the hawk, and filling the cup a third time, offered it to his horse. But the hawk upset it with a flirt of wings. Said the king, Allah confound thee, thou unluckiest of flying things! Thou keepest me from drinking, and thou deprivest thyself also and the horse. So he struck the falcon with his sword and cut off her wing. But the bird raised her head and said by signs, Look at that which hangeth on the tree. The king lifted up his eyes accordingly, and caught sight of a brood of vipers, whose poison drops he mistook for water. Thereupon he repented him of having struck off his falcon's wings, and mounting horse fared on with the dead gazelle, till he arrived at the camp, his starting place. He threw the quarry to the cook, saying, Take and broil it, and sat down on his chair, the falcon being still on his fist, when suddenly the bird gasped and died. Whereupon the king cried out in sorrow and remorse for having slain that falcon which had saved his life. Now this is what occurred in the case of King Sindibad, and I am assured that were I to do as thou desirest, I should repent even as the man who killed his parrot. Said the vizier, And how was that? And the king began to tell the tale of the husband and the parrot. A certain man and a merchant, to boot, had married a fair wife, a woman of perfect beauty and grace, symmetry and loveliness, of whom he was mad jealous, and who contrived successfully to keep him from travel. At last, an occasion compelling him to leave her, he went to the bird market and bought him for 100 gold pieces a she-parrot, which he set in his house to act as duenna, expecting her to acquaint him on his return with what had passed during the whole time of his absence. For the bird was kenning and cunning, and never forgot what she had seen and heard. Now his fair wife had fallen in love with a young Turk who used to visit her, and she feasted him by day and lay with him by night. When the man made his journey and won his wish, he came home, and at once causing the parrot be brought to him, questioned her concerning the conduct of his consort whilst he was in foreign parts. She said, "Thy wife had a man friend who passed every night." Thereupon the husband went to his wife in a violent rage and bashed her with a bashing severe enough to satisfy anybody. The woman, suspecting that one of her slave girls had been tattling to the master, called them together and questioned them upon their oath, when all swore that they had kept the secret, but that the parrot had not, adding, "And we heard her with our own ears." Upon this, the woman bade one of the girls to set a hand mill under the cage and grind therewith, and a second to sprinkle water through the cage roof, and a third to run about right and left, flashing a mirror of bright steel through the livelong night. Next morning, when the husband returned home after being entertained by one of his friends, he bade bring the parrot before him and asked what had taken place whilst he was away. "Pardon me, O my master," said the bird. "I could neither hear nor see, aught by reason of the exceeding murk and the thunder and lightning, which lasted throughout the night. As it happened to be the summertide, the master was astounded and cried, 'But we are now in mid-Tammuz, and this is not the time for rains and storms.' 'Aye, by Allah,' rejoined the bird, 'I saw with these eyes what my tongue hath told thee.' Upon this, the man, not knowing the case, nor smoking the plot, waxed exceeding wroth, and holding that his wife had been wrongly accused, put forth his hand, and pulling the parrot from her cage, dashed her upon the ground with such force that he killed her on the spot. Some days afterwards, one of his slave girls confessed to him the whole truth. Yet he would not believe it, till he saw the young Turk, his wife's lover, coming out of her chamber, when he bared his blade and slew him by a blow on the back of the neck, and he did the same by the adulteress. And thus the twain, laden with mortal sin, went straightways to eternal fire. Then the merchant knew that the parrot had told him the truth, and all she had seen, and he mourned grievously for her loss, when mourning availed him not. The minister, hearing the words of King Yunan, rejoined, "O monarch, high in dignity, and what harm have I done him, or what evil have I seen from him, that I should compass his death? I would not do this thing, save to serve thee, and soon shalt thou decide that it is right. And if thou accept my advice, thou shalt be saved. Otherwise, thou shalt be destroyed, even as a certain vizier, who acteth treacherously by the young prince. Ask the king, how was that? And the minister thus began the tale of the prince and the ogress. Now I will close the book for tonight, and Joanna will pick up that tale for you guys tomorrow at 9:45 p.m. I hope you enjoyed the reading. I hope you had a wonderful day, going inwards instead of outwards, and I hope I was able to carry you away at least for a little bit of time. Now I'm gonna go and take care of my lovely cat and wish you a wonderful night. Bye. Much love and thanks for being here. Bye.